Welcome to the Afterspin, opinions from thought leaders in our state. I want to ask John Hood and Chris Fitzsimon. I was interested in a New York Times column by Paul Krugman this week. He said that the 2018 election had only one issue, Donald Trump. Voters would be saying whether they want 2 more years of Trump and a Congress that essentially stands up with him and refuses to stand up to him, or whether they want a change. What's your reaction to this, Chris? John, excuse me.
We are easy
I said
to mistake
one and
for
looked
each
at
other.
the other. All right.
What I would say is, first of all, your first mistake was to pay attention and by find interesting a column by that particular New York Times columnist. All right. So that's your first mistake. But obviously, Trump is the largest single issue in the 2018 election. And I would have thought maybe 6 months ago it was the entire story, but I don't think it is anymore. Partly, people have gotten used to Trump, and whether they like him or hate him, they sort of see him as an entertainment property within the media constellation of universe. And so it's not quite the same thing as he is the only political story worth thinking about. Other stories are starting to intrude. But the biggest problem that you've got with that thesis is the economy's doing a whole lot better than it was even a few months ago. People perceive at least that that's the case. And that is making it less likely incumbents will be thrown out. I still think Democrats are going to have a good year in 2018, and Trump will be the most important reason, but I don't think it'll be the only story in the election.
So, Chris, I've been chided for reading Paul Krugman.
What's your take on this? Anytime you can read a Nobel-winning columnist in the major newspaper in America,
he did not
whether
win
you
a prize for his column.
Well,
he won a prize when he used to have some common sense.
Okay.
Okay.
We digress.
Never mind.
Go ahead.
John knows more about everything.
So what do you think about this?
What I think is that he's onto something. I don't know if he'll be the only issue, but I think he'll be a dominant issue. And if you don't believe it, just look at the recent Republican primary in the 9th District in North Carolina. The argument among Republicans was which one was more like Trump. That was between Mark Harris and Robert Pittenger. Now I think you're going to see Dan McGrady, the Democrat, is going to make Trump an issue. I think it's June, obviously. We have a long way to go before November. I don't know if the perception to the economy will turn around. I think there's a chance we'll find out more about what Trump was up to, not necessarily with Russia, but other things that were happening in his administration. I think that he will be the dominant issue. He won't be the only issue, but I think he will be the dominant issue. And I think that he accounts for the giant enthusiasm among Democratic voters. They can't vote against Donald Trump in November, but they can vote against his party, and he's the head of the Republican Party.
Okay, that may be applying nationally. Does that also apply in North Carolina? Do you think Donald Trump's a big issue in North Carolina, John?
Sure. He's the single most important issue in the election, just like any president is in any year. Trump is even more of an outsized figure than the average president. All I'm arguing is there are other things that could influence, for example, turnout or how people vote. They could end up not liking Donald Trump and thinking North Carolina's doing okay, so they're not going to rock the boat by throwing out incumbents. That is certainly a possibility, and we have seen things like that happen sometimes in past cycles.
Plus, I think that, who knows, as we're sitting here, you're watching this at home tonight, Donald Trump could have said something so outrageous that at some point Democrats are going to spend money forcing Republicans to say, do you agree with this ridiculous statement?
Chris,
That's
how
what
much
happens.
more outrageous could this person get?
Well, but I'm saying we haven't
I
seen...
know that's difficult, that's a very dangerous question to
I
ask.
think the meter broke on the outrageous scale
My point is we haven't yet seen an election cycle where candidate A Democrat picks the most horrible things that he has said and tries to force the Republican to confront them and say, this is your president. Do you agree with X, Y, and Z? And I think that's one of the issues that will happen in the campaign.
Here's the one thing I think both of you can agree on, and that is that these November elections are going to take on some interests that are uncommon and uncharacteristic for midterm elections. This year's November elections should be extremely interesting. Well, thanks for watching the Afterspin. We'll have more video all during the week on ncspin.com.